To introduce your next speaker, please help me give a warm hand of welcome to Anthony Hilder.
Thank you, Payman. Andre Michael Eggelletion is the first black man in American history to pen a work on the privately owned Federal Reserve. That's historic in itself. But what makes this man unique and an individual amongst individuals is that he has the capacity to take the ball and throw for the touchdown. He's a quarterback. He's got the legs. He's got the personality. He has the charisma. This man that you are about to hear had this book, Thieves in the Temple. It was about 22,000 on the list about a few days ago. He did Coast to Coast, the Nori show. He calls me up and it had gone up to like 400. Then he calls me up and we're talking and it had gone to, I think, 58. In a matter of days. The book is now 38 in the country on Amazon. He is doing something now. This man is doing something now that hasn't been done in the patriot community. Heretofore, it's been the work of basically old white men. Together, today, something unusual has happened. We have a mix, an ecumenical movement, an alliance of the right and the left and the black and the white. Together, we can outflank the sons of bitches who are trying to bring us in. Andre Eggelletion over here. I'm looking at him. He understands this. He can communicate. He has the knowledge to sell it. Heretofore, the American people have bought the big one. They bought the big banana. They believed that the privately owned Federal Reserve was federal because it had federal, like Federal Laundry or the Federal Bubblegum Company. And they're more federal than the Federal Reserve. Well, this man has not only the capacity to toss the ball for a touchdown, he can run, he can shift, and he's got that magnetism which this book down here, and Dr. Rosie Milligan back there, raise your hand, love. Stand up. She has published this thing, and if I am not wrong, has it not caused you a night of concern to how am I going to get all of these books out to all of these people all around the country? Has it not gone, as I have said? Doubled your vitamin intake. Well, she needs that. God, it is a blessing to have black, white, left, right, Chicanos, Muslims, Christians, all working together for one cause. That is to stay alive. They want to kill 4 out of 5 of us. They want us to go down, so everything that we have is totally dependent upon them. This man understands how it works and how it operates. And I would like all of you right now to stand with me and welcome a new leader, a visionary, a man who I look to being the new quarterback for our team in the money movement. Andre Michael Eggelletion, please stand with me and welcome this man.
You're too kind. Anthony, you're too kind. Let me say this. Were it not for this man, I would not be standing here today. Were it not for not only his efforts, were it not for the efforts of all of you who unknowingly have inspired me. You have inspired me to reach deep within myself and to find that part of myself that will never let the truth die. And I dedicate my life to bringing this message to America. I've been inspired by people like Captain Joyce Riley, by people like Mr. G. Edward Griffin, by people like Eustace Mullins, Anthony Sutton, Charles Hyam, and all of the other great patriots that have tried to keep this flame burning bright that President Kennedy said would light the world. I've tried, and if it were not for you, my friend, and I'm proud to call you my friend and my brother, I wouldn't be here. Thank you. So we do want to let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and to foe alike, that the torch is being passed right now to a new generation of Americans. Amen. There is no way on this earth that this fight can be won if we are divided. Right. Division is not an asset to us. It's our greatest liability. The smoke screen of differences that the mainstream media and the nefarious poodles of monetary scientists have tried to use for years and years and years to keep us distracted and divided will no longer work. We are united, we are one, and we will win this fight. Chairman Greenspan, in 1996, spoke about irrational exuberance in our markets. He spoke about the inordinate spending of the government. He spoke about the belief in the average American's heart that things would continue unencumbered by the natural volatility of our capital and financial markets. Irrational exuberance. He spoke about that back in 1996. And just last week, I believe it was, in his testimony before the House Budget Committee, he spoke about deficits. He spoke about the fact that our Congress and this particular administration has spent money without any regard for fiscal solvency. They have backed government-secured enterprises like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who have an asset base that is about as stable as a bottle of nitroglycerin. They've backed them in spite of the reckless and provocative way in which the managers of these government-secured enterprises have ran these entities. And Greenspan spoke about the deficits that is being created by the reckless fiscal management of our government those agencies in the mortgage industry, those agencies that have been established to regulate our equity markets, those agencies that have been established to regulate our currency, valuation, world trade, and virtually every aspect of our economy. He spoke about the deficits. Well, evidently, Mr. Greenspan doesn't believe in what he's saying himself. Because for 24 solid months, Alan Greenspan decided to pump unprecedented liquidity into our economy. Unprecedented. Now, he knowing full well that putting all of this money into our money supply would create a fertile environment for living beyond our means. We have borrowed ourselves into oblivion. And the Federal Reserve System, America's fourth failed experiment with a privately owned central bank, has more than been happy to administer the monetary narcotic to keep this country's conscience anesthetized throughout the rest of the 21st century. It's the greatest crime that's ever been perpetrated upon the American people. And I, for one, refuse to stand by, seeing what is happening to my country and allowing it to materialize any further. I refuse. You should refuse. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. But I want to inspire every one of you to go back to your homes and your communities, wherever you come from, and wake up your neighbors and make them understand that this is the greatest adversity this country has ever faced. Far greater than Tojo and the Japanese. Far greater than Adolf Hitler. Far greater than any strategic threat that this country has ever faced. This failed experiment with the privately owned central bank, the Federal Reserve, must come to an end. There is no other solution. Everything else is a Band-Aid on cancer. I applaud Congressman Ron Paul. I don't know if he's here now or not. But I applaud Congressman Ron Paul for having the intestinal fortitude to be the only member of Congress to stand up and say the only way out is to abolish the system. We can no longer be satisfied with Band-Aids on cancer. We can no longer be satisfied with temporary quick fixes. We can no longer be satisfied with the tired old canard, well, if we forgive their debt, everything will be all right. No, it won't. Because if you leave the banking system in place that created this dire economic malady facing every living thing upon the face of this earth in place, it will enslave the world all over again. It must be abolished. So Alan Greenspan doesn't believe in his own advice. By pumping all of this liquidity into our capital and financial markets, the only thing the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board has done is to spur job growth and economic productivity, not in America, not in any part of this hemisphere, but in China and Asia. And it's about to bring the world to the brink of a World War III for real. We had better wake up. You know, it's impossible. You can read my book. Everybody in this room has probably read Creature from Jekyll Island. We know the history of the Fed. I don't want to go back through that again. Or do I need to? I don't think I need to go through that again. We know that this is the fourth failed experiment with a privately owned central bank. What are they doing today in your and my day? I want to pick up where these great patriots who have passed me this baton have left off and carry this ball. Carry it to my community. And I tell you something, I'm a host on 2 different talk shows in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. One of the shows that I host is called South Florida Speaks Out. And we air on the internet on WSRF.com and on 1580 AM. The other show that I host, and that show runs 5 days a week from 11 to 1. Every day of the week they have to deal with Andre. And I'm quite sure they're not comfortable with it. Because I know which toe to hit to really make them want to scream. Okay? I don't want to be a blunt instrument in this battle for our freedom and for our children's futures. I don't want to be a blunt instrument. I want to be a sharp spear right to the core of the problem. That's what I want to be. My wife will tell you that's why I'm up almost day and night studying, reading everything I can possibly get my hands on, both pro and con to our current monetary paradigm, to try to be more succinct, to try to assess the situation much more accurately and point to the problems much more succinctly and offer solutions that will work. And I can tell you right now, Ron Paul is hitting the nail dead on the head. And if we don't give him our undivided, unequivocal, and implicit support, we will be remissed beyond any shadow of a doubt. But I can tell you something. My listeners are primarily from the Caribbean. I came to that station, a son of a black man from North Florida, where he's half black, half white. His biological father was the sheriff of Jackson County in 1923 and refused to own my father. He grew up without a father. He swore that he would never treat his children that way. He raised 7 children, a dirt poor country boy from North Florida, who never stole anything from anyone, who never sold a drug to anyone, who said, I'm going to raise my children. I'm going to save every penny that I have and educate my children. That's why I dedicate my book to my parents, because without them there would be no me. Josephus Eggelletion instilled in his children's heart the desire for fairness and to do right. He never told us to hate anyone. He taught us to love and respect all mankind. Respect them until they give you a reason not to, and treat everyone the same. And that has been ingrained in my heart. It's been written into my heart by the finger of God through my father. And no charlatan, no demagogue can erase it. It's there and it's there forevermore. So I want you to join with me, and I want you to join with Ron Paul. I want you to join with Clayton. I want you to join with Anthony. I want you to join with Joyce Riley and everybody that's out here leading this struggle, and let us continue. But let me say this. My listeners, I want to get back to this point. These people are primarily from the Caribbean. They come into our country some 60,000 strong every year. They are fleeing from the main country there, Jamaica. It has a population of less than 2.3 million people, but the 5th highest murder rate on the face of the earth. Partly because after 9/11, we saw it fit to find that as an excuse to reallocate resources to the so-called national security complex of this country. And it has left this country wallowing in an entropic gangsterification. And the people there are fighting and devouring one another. So they tune in to Mystic 1580, a Caribbean station, and they hear me. They hear a black man saying, the time is out for pointing a finger at the white man, saying that he's the responsibility for your dire economic straits. No, he isn't. The time is out for the white man pointing his finger at the black man, saying, you and welfare recipients and these entitlement grubbing useless eaters are the cause for our dire economic straits. No, it isn't. It's a malign monetary policy that has been germinated by monetary scientists who have sucked the lifeblood out of this country. Wake up, America. We can either wake up and learn how to sup together, or I guarantee you we will die together. That's the way it is, like it or not. I am here. I'm not going anywhere. Not until they take me out. I'll be here and I will be fighting this fight right along with every last one of you. These malign economic policies are a weapon of mass destruction. Let me tell you what they're doing. You want to know what they're doing today? It's impossible to understand the role of the Federal Reserve in our society today and the role that monetary science is playing in how it controls and manipulates and prods and pushes the political policies of this government and the leading industrialized governments of the world without understanding its relationship to oil and its desire to spread American hegemony all over the world. And that includes the real crucible of the New World Order, which is China. Make no mistake about it. You can't understand the organization of Anglo-American policy without understanding how China fits into this thing. Right now, the economists all across this country have concluded that the ascension of China to the World Trade Organization has constituted the biggest coming out party in the history of capitalism. In 40 years, China will overtake America as the world's #1 economy. In 10 years, the stress that China is going to put on every commodity being produced that's necessary for the industrialization of any society is going to outpace the world's capacity to produce them. Right now, the Chinese are consuming about 40% of the world's cement. About 70% of the world's crude oil is going to China. 31% of its coal, 25% of the aluminum, 30% of the iron ore, and 27% of the steel. The question we should ask ourselves is, are we so hungry for profit and for return in our 401ks and in our IRAs and in all of the rest of the securities that we have been forced to place our stake into? Are we so hungry for a profitable return on these investments that we're willing to commit suicide over them? That's the question we should ask ourselves. This is another thing I want us to start thinking about. You know, it's easy to point our fingers at the robber barons and at the Greenspans and the monetary scientists and the Bushes in the world. But what about us? Our sleep and our indifference in this country is our #1 adversity. You know, if the devil had slid down out of that tree as a snake and appeared unto Eve and started talking, you know, and a lot of black people think and say that Eve was a black woman. I don't care what color she was. She could have been polka dot as far as I'm concerned. I'm after the principle that's couched in the story. If you miss the principle, you miss the whole ball of wax. If the devil had slid down as a snake, Eve would have ran. I know my wife would have ran. There's no way you're going to sit there and talk to a snake. No, that's not the way it was. You know, it's easy to point our finger at the snakes out there, but what about us? We help perpetuate this system, believe it or not. Every one of us have an IRA, a 401k. Who knows what these fund managers are doing with that money? How they are investing that money in despotic regimes that seek to destroy America. You know, there are a group of people right now in this country that's calling for investor activism, the divestment in those countries that seek to destroy America and compromise the notion of freedom and liberty around the world. We play a part in it. Every time, and we're a great country. We're a great country. We have done so much, and this is what Bill O'Reilly likes to point to all the time. Well, you know, you got these conspiracy theorists out there and these anti-bankers and these people that are calling for the nationalization of our central bank. You damn right, I'm calling for the nationalization of our central bank. It was the greatest political blunder in the history of this country to privatize it. So I'm calling for it. You're right. He's saying they're not telling you about all the good that America has done. America has loaned money to every country on the face of this earth. We've fed the hungry. We've clothed the naked. We've tried to heal the sick. Yeah, but what about the strings that come attached to that aid? What about the draconian austerity, the fact that these people have to earmark 75% of their gross domestic product in debt service? That's not help. That's slavery. What about the fact that these countries have to liberalize their entire capital and financial market infrastructure? What about the fact that these countries have to privatize virtually all of their assets? Okay? If you have any commodity that's being produced in that country, timber, steel, iron ore, it's an essential component of our foreign policy that we have dibs on all of these commodities that are necessary for aiding these countries out of the dark ages, from turning them from starving, crippled countries in the developing world, wherein despotic leaders can easily arise, pointing their fingers at America, at Americans, saying, you are the cause for our problems. We might bear a little bit of the responsibility if we choose to keep our head buried in the sand, if we choose to be timid, if we choose to be blunt. No, we don't. We can't be blunt anymore. We got to be succinct. We got to go right straight to the heart of this thing. But the people coming to our country from the Caribbean, they know a little thing about diplomatic isolationism. They know a little thing about trade preferences. The fact that we won't buy anything from Ma and Pa Farmer in the Caribbean anymore because United Fruit Company seeks us to buy these agricultural commodities from their privatized operations in Central America and in South America and throughout the Caribbean. So Ma and Pa, see you. Back of the line, Blackie. We're only going to buy from United Fruit Company, ConAgra, ADM Mills, Pillsbury, wherever these privatized operations are run in Central America. So they know a thing or two about that. They already know about economic oppression. They know about the stagnation and the economic asphyxiation that diplomatic isolationism has caused. People say the Haitians just need to get a job. Doing what? The average life expectancy of a man on that island is 49.33 years, and I charge our central bank here in this country for its being that way. Poverty in that country is 78%. And that's abject poverty. 75% of the island is unemployed. It's a crime before God, and we call ourselves a Christian nation. We want to go halfway around the world and impose democracy on people that in the last 8,000 years have never demonstrated a propensity towards our form of government because they know that our democracy is in reality a plutocracy. They already know it. But we deny people who were crying out for democracy 600 miles from our shores. That's diplomatic isolationism. They know how it has asphyxiated their country, and they don't have a hope. Failed states in our own backyard, the chaos, the gangsterification of these cultures cannot be contained. It's going to spread. That's why they created NAFTA. That's why they created the free trade area of the Americas. That's why they are creating now the Central American Free Trade Agreement, so that when these economies catch a cold, you and I start sneezing. So that when these economies experience an undue rise in violence and the drugs have taken over their culture and gangstified their neighborhoods, we will begin to have to lock our doors. It cannot be contained, and it's all because of monetary science. It's all because of the policies of the Federal Reserve. Because it's the Federal Reserve that wants to continue to assuage the anxiety of Wall Street. Make sure that they're going to be happy and be assured that their profits are going to continue. So they get their nefarious little poodles in government to make sure that these types of trade preference agreements and this type of draconian austerity and privatization and liberalization is the policy that's implemented towards these countries. I can tell you right now, it's a dangerous proposition. You know, we've all heard the expression, you can only kick a dog so much. Sooner or later, these people are going to get angry enough to do something that they really don't want to do. And the second point in that whole situation is we see it happening over there, but we are dumb enough to think that it's not going to catch up with us here. We're dumb enough to think that I sit a queen and I am no widow, to quote the Bible. We had better wake up and realize that what that book is preaching is the truth. The book of Isaiah talked about how that Satan would weaken the nations. These nations have been weakened. They have been weakened by malign monetary policies. And we're going to have to fight to restore fairness, to restore the principles that are in the Bible. Now, I don't care whether or not you're a Muslim, whether you're a Jew, whether you're an atheist, an agnostic, or a Christian. We're looking at the principles. Later for the manifestation. The manifestation changes, but the principle remained the same. 2,000 years ago, it was shekels, and it was dishonest weights and measures in the temple. That's why I'm calling the book Thieves in the Temple. Today, it's Federal Reserve notes. It's SDRs. It's the devaluation of our currency. It's an unfair peg of the yuan to the dollar. Giving China all kinds of unfair advantage, killing our manufacturing base in here in this country. Creating an almost insurmountable animus in the transatlantic alliance. Europe doesn't like our policies. And there is, they're telling us the Cold War came to an end. And I interviewed Dr. Zbigniew Brzezinski on my show. And I told him, I said, look, they want to give Ronald Reagan the credit for 50 years worth of policies that helped to bring down the Soviet Union. I said, if any one man deserves the lion's share of the credit, Dr. Brzezinski, it's probably you. Because you did some things to bring the Soviet Union down. Oh, you're giving me too much credit. Yes, you did. And after I let him out there on that limb and talked about how that Bush was coddling this guy Putin so much, and how we need to be a little bit more blunt with him in terms of our insistence that he provide some security over the 600 metric tons of fissile materials in the Soviet Union, and how that we need a strong policy to keep this stuff from falling into the hands of people that want to hurt us. I said, now we need a consistent policy that fits our side of the world, Mr. Brzezinski. Well, I got to go now. I see you. Thank you, Andre, for the interview. And until we can be fair like that, right is right and wrong is wrong, we're not going anywhere. Until we can look at one another as brothers and sisters, we're not going anywhere. The bankers are happy. The corporations that have grown up around them, they're happy because they can continue to market stuff to us that exacerbate the differences that are between us. I've got to tell you, my Caribbean brothers and sisters, they know a little something about the harshness of malign economic policies. But we here in this country are just beginning to find out. I was here 2 weeks ago doing a book signing in L.A. I saw gas at $2.69 a gallon, regular. This is insane. You want to know how we help to create this ourselves? Well, like I told you, crude oil is a vital commodity to the industrialization of China. These fund managers that are managing your security portfolios are investing, they're speculating very heavily in crude oil. And the more they speculate in crude oil, the higher the value is going to go up. We are the ones that want these SUVs. We are the ones that won't tell Bush to bring these carburetors that can get 100 miles a gallon into the marketplace. We are the ones that refuse to support men like Ron Paul. We are the ones that are too lazy to write our congressmen. We are the ones that choose to keep our heads buried in the sand. Oh, yeah, we could keep blaming President Bush. We could keep blaming Alan Greenspan. But I guarantee you, they're not so tough. We're the tough ones. We've forgotten we're the fourth branch of the system of checks and balances in this country. We have the executive, the legislative, the judicial, and then we the people. We are the ones that can demand that the Federal Reserve be abolished. But as long as we allow these banks to continue to seek to gain profits through increasing their fees in transnational mergers and acquisitions, particularly in Asia, as long as we continue to want to consume and want to borrow every time they lower interest rates, instead of realizing, like the deer that I love to shoot in northern Florida, every year we go up there and we put corn out, and the deer come out to the corn, and I'm sitting there, black man 20 feet up in the tree with a bow and arrow. So quite naturally, he looks up there and at me and says, you're not going to do nothing to me. You don't look like, what's the guy's name? Some of these hunters on TV. You're not going to do anything to me. So he goes to the corn and bang, I take him out. Don't you see these lower interest rates? Alan Greenspan lowering interest rates down from 8% in June of 2000 all the way down to 1% in July of 2004 is like corn in that feeder. They're suckering us into borrowing ourselves into oblivion, and that's exactly what we have done. Liquidity in homes have taken the place of a good-paying job. Credit cards have taken the place of a good-paying job. The rise in our home values has taken the place of a savings account for our retirement. It's an unsustainable economic model. And we all are going to wake up one day to the sobering fact that we're slaves. They're trying to pass a law right now to prevent you from filing bankruptcy. There's nothing that you have as my friend Anthony J. Hilder likes to say all the time, that they aren't planning on taking away, and that they aren't already taking away. We're going to have to wake up, you guys, and hold them to task. You know why they want these home values up so high? Yeah, I freaked out when I was driving across Crenshaw to go to this little church, First Methodist Church in L.A., and to Zara's over on La Brea. I freaked out when I was passing by Crenshaw, and they said, you know, you're in the black neighborhood now. I said, really? How much do the homes cost over here? They said, you can't buy a home for under $300,000. I said, you got to be kidding me. How many black kids you know can afford a $300 house? How many white kids you know coming out of college can afford to buy a $300,000 house? Not many. They want these home values inflated as high as possible because, number one, the Fed views it as a deficit reduction tool. The more money your house is worth, the more they can charge you in a tax bill. The more they collect in taxes, the more they can allocate towards the deficit, which was Clinton's prescription. But with Bush, that's more money he can allocate towards tax cuts for the rich and for his operations in Iraq and for all of the millions and millions and billions of dollars it's going to cost to advance a U.S. corporate and banking hegemony around the world, to your and my detriment, I might add. You know, in Europe right now, we could learn something from the Europeans. We really, really could. From what a lot of people call the mother country, the motherland, Europeans, for my white brothers and sisters, Africa for my ancestors. We can learn something from them because they have chosen to keep peace through the establishment of economic union, of an economic corporation that's a little bit more fair than what we're doing. They dangle a carrot. We choose a stick because we can. We're the only country after World War II when we decided no longer would we be the world's leading oil exporter, that we would be the country which will control that resource wherever it exists on the face of the earth. So Roosevelt got together with the Saudi royals and decided to use them as a surrogate oil-producing entity in the world. And we chose to allocate those resources to building up the greatest military this world has ever seen and arguably ever will see. Where in Europe, scaled down. And we said, don't worry about it, we'll protect you. We'll use our armies to protect you. So consequently, Europe has now, not only do they operate on stricter protocols in dealing with everything from stateless capital, that's the money that moves around the world. You know, every time we loan money to a despotic regime or some developing country, the money doesn't stay there. It is sent out around the world to seek shelter from runaway inflation because of the softness of their currencies. It's sent out around the world. And it goes out in the form of stateless capital in search of the higher return anywhere around the world. So Europe has created more stringent protocols in dealing with this problem. Federal Reserve steady pulling their hair out. They don't know what to do about it. You know, because the mania of this stateless capital moving in and out of our markets wreak havoc on our markets. So Truman came along and said, well, we're going to have to begin to have proxy police. He and Eisenhower said we're going to have proxy police to guard our oil interests in the Middle East because the American people don't want to send their kids over there. Then along came the Nixon doctrine, which was put into place when we realized that England was reneging on their promise to look after our interests in the Middle East, because they didn't have the military to do it. We're the only ones after World War II that allowed the military-industrial complex all of this unwarranted access to power, both in Washington and in your wallet. We're the only ones that did it, so England couldn't do it. Then Nixon said, well, look, the government of Mohammed Mossadegh, not only that, on top of that, in 1953, Mossadegh committed the ultimate crime. He nationalized all of British petroleum oil fields. We labeled him a communist, created a low-intensity coup d'etat, got him out of power. Along come Nixon in power and says, you know something? We're going to have to put the Shah of Iran in there, and we're going to take care of policing our own oil interests in the Middle East. And finally, Jimmy Carter put the seal on it. In his farewell address to Congress, those words are written in my heart and mind. He said, let me make myself perfectly clear. Any outside force seeking to gain control of the Persian Gulf region will be regarded as an assault upon the United States of America, and such an assault will be repelled by any means necessary, including military force. And that's why we're over there today. So it's impossible to understand the role of the Fed today until you understand the role that China's playing. They're financing our appetite to spend. Okay? They refuse to unpeg the yuan from the dollar. Europe is dangling the carrot in front of their face. Okay, well, if you release that dollar peg, we'll lift the arms embargo. And if you start accepting more euros in your currency reserves instead of oil, we'll lift that arms embargo even further. And the Bush administration and the Federal Reserve is about to pull their hair out because they just don't know how to handle it. These robber barons that set this system in motion, they knew that it would have a certain amount of chaos in the whole dynamic that would be difficult for them to control, but they want to do it. It's just like when they ended the Bretton Woods system in 1971 and took us off the gold standard so that they can loan out money that they create out of absolutely nothing at all and get other governments addicted to it. They knew that this would create a central banking crisis so that it could hasten the day when no longer would there be the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the Bundesbank, the Bank of Italy, but there would be one bank. There would be one bank because the people would cry out for monetary reform. It's my goal to enlighten the American people, to teach us what to ask for, so that we won't be blind in the dark, so that my brothers and sisters won't be pointing their fingers at some white guy that's scuffling to his knuckles to the bone trying to send his kids to school, keep them out of the harm's way, so that the white man won't be pointing at me saying, you're the reason for my problems, and we're fighting one another. And all the while the Rockefellers and the Greenspans and the Bushes of the world are going to the bank on our ignorance. I want to wake this country up. I want to wake this country up. Now already they're trying to shut my radio station down. As long as it was a little Caribbean station down there talking about kill the white man, kill the... Everything was happy. They're happy with that. But the minute we start talking about homogenizing our society and coalescing into one cohesive unit, oh no, you got to go. You're a little bit too smart for yourself. You got to go because you're making the proper prescription at long last. Martin Luther King told us it cost him his life. And there was no way that America could move forward without his sacrifice and without the sacrifice of John Kennedy and his brother Bobby. There's no way we could move forward. It was the required sacrifice to move forward. You know, the tabernacle of Moses, when we go into that tabernacle, and Paul said that the tabernacle is a shadow of heavenly things. In other words, if you want to know something about God, God says in Romans 1:19 and 20, because that which may be known of God is manifested in them, for God has shown it unto them, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being made understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and supernal nature, so that they are without excuse. In other words, it takes the things that you can see in order to understand something about God who you cannot see. Okay, so that tabernacle, it is the archetype. It is a pattern. And everything in this universe operates according to the dictates of that pattern. The first thing you come to in that tabernacle is an altar. So in other words, before you can get in the game, before you can be a priest and officiate in this greater and more perfect tabernacle, which is the society of man, you got to put something on that altar. Guess what? It's not lambs and bullocks and heifers and turtle doves anymore. It's you. It's you. It's your prejudices. It's your preconceived notions. It's your own, I think it's this way. I think it's that way. No, it's got to go on the altar. That's the first vessel that you come to. Then the next vessel you come to is a laver. It symbolizes a washing. In other words, all of the crap that's been taught to us by our grandfathers and our grandmothers and all the hate mongers in the world has got to be washed out of our minds before we can go up and tackle the Federal Reserve. They are the devil's chief angel on this earth. You can't go and be a high priest for God with contamination in your heart. It's got to be cleansed out so you can go forward. I know damn well I'm telling you the truth. And I'm going to tell you the truth. Then the next vessel you come to is the cup of anointing oil. Your conscience has to be anointed with the Spirit of God, not being guided by your own vain intellect, your own imaginations, your own concepts and opinions. It's got to be anointed by the hand of God. Martin Luther King had a case of the can't help it. Ted Gunderson has a case of the can't help it. My man, back in the back over there, his name is right on the tip of my... Clayton has a case of the can't help it. God is guiding these men. Joyce Riley has a case of the can't help it. Their minds have been anointed by the hand of God. After you leave out of the outer court, you come to the holy place, wherein there's a 7-branch lampstand. Now, I tell you something. Be patient with your friends and your family, because that light in that holy place symbolizes the light in our heart and in our mind. Our bodies is a head cavity, chest cavity, abdominal cavity. 3 parts, but 1 man. Our government is executive, legislative, and judicial. 3 parts, but 1 government. We can only speak in 3 tenses, past, present, and future. 3 tenses, but we're talking about the same thing, time. The earth is a crust, a core, and a mantle, but it's one earth. Let's break it all the way down, because I don't want to go through everything on the earth. Let's take the common denominator of all matter, the atom. It's a proton, neutron, and electron. If you split it, you're going to get another proton, neutron, and electron. Everything is threefold because it reflects the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost. I know I sound like a preacher, but God is leading me today. God is leading me today. And where He takes me, I'm going to follow. I tell you something. When you come into that holy place, be patient with your friends and your family, because the high priest didn't light all of those candles at the same time. Just woof, they all lit. No, he had to light them one at a time. In other words, the light's going to come on slowly. Then you can offer that bread that was on the table of shewbread. You can have that prayer of intercession for you. And then finally, you go into the most holy place where we look at the Ark of the Covenant. The 2 archangels, Michael and Gabriel. Gabriel's the messenger. Michael is the warrior. It's a strange coincidence that in your brain is divided into 2 halves, motor and sensory. One side sends messages. The other side is the warrior. We got a pituitary gland, that's the master gland of our body that governs our growth, reproduction, and metabolism. It secretes 10 hormones, 7 out of one side, 3 out of the other. Just like that 10 commandment law, 7 on one side, 3 on the other. It's all about being honest with yourself and honest before God. The politicians and the bankers refuse to be. Now, will we be honest? Will we stand up and join together in this great, epic, historic battle for fairness and righteousness and win this fight, or will we be overrun? That is the question. It's up to us. I thank you.
Thank you, Andre, for that moving presentation. Thank you very much.